Congratulations. I'm in love with you. Best pickup line ever. K.G.F. Chapter 1, released in 2018 and is directed by Prashanath Neel, who is also behind such films like Ugram, Salar, and K.G.F. Chapter 2. And this movie is starring Yash, Yamashtra Raju, Srindi Shetty, Vanishta N. Sima, Arkana Hois, Anant Nag, Achyuth Kumar, Malavika Avinash, T.S. Nagabarana, and B. Saresha. Disclaimer once again, I suck at reading foreign names, but I do my best out of respect for the performers of this movie because they deserve it. So I'm trying, for those of you that just listened to that and was like, what is this dumbass white American boy doing? I'm just trying to show respect. I'm trying here. I know that was terrible. K.G.F. Chapter 1 takes place primarily in the Kolar gold fields, and there are a whole bunch of crime bosses and mob bosses in charge of the thing getting rich off of the inhabitants and the slaves, until a little child is born from the KGF and grows up to be one of the best badass musclemen for the mob in history. But now that he's reached some type of status and claim amongst the people, now he's trying to take down the powers that be and free all the slaves of KGF. So I have received multiple recommendations from so many people since starting my journey down Indian cinema with RRR last year, and I've watched films like Bahubali and Iga, and then now KGF was one of the most recommended films from people from India saying, hey, if you're getting into Indian cinema, you have to check this movie out, and also the sequel. You may not like them, but you at least have to check it out. And I have to say, I dug this thing for the most part. These action films from India are just great. They do such a great job of building up your protagonist and your main hero to where they're just this unstoppable force that no one can touch them. They're always standing in a crowd, and the crowd is running around, and they're looking around, but there is our protagonist right there. Here is Rocky in this film, just standing tall above everyone else, and he's looking all badass. The wind is blowing through his magnificent hair, and you know he's about to kick the shit out of you. And they do a great job of establishing that right off the bat. Once he's hung up by his arms in that warehouse, there's like 50, 60 people standing around waiting to like beat him up and kill him. And then they cut to someone else and they're like, no, that's just gonna make him angry. No! That's badass making 101 right there. And I do love this journey of this young boy who started in the slums. His mother was poor and gave him everything that she could possibly do. They were starving. She had to cover him up to keep him warm at night. So you buy into his story and his passion for becoming wealthy and establishing himself in power because he doesn't come from it. He's always desired it. He's always wanted it. And it was his mother's last words that she ever said to him was to be rich, to be a prominent person. So to see him take that to heart and establish himself as bigger and more popular than the Dons and the mob bosses, it's actually really cool, and it's a great story. The editing of this movie and the audio quality, though, is kinda questionable. The editing choices here are all over the place. This film, the scenes are constantly cutting in and out with different camera angles basically every second. I had such a headache watching this movie, and it establishes a nice kinetic energy, like we are constantly moving, but that's the problem, though, is that we are constantly moving. We need to have some moments in here where that tension that you're bending that stick on, you have to release it a little bit. You have to slow down at points. And it's rare that we get the easing of tension in this film. Really, the only time that comes to mind where I felt that the editing and the camera angles stopped and we just slowed down and stayed focused on a couple of characters during a very beautiful moment was when he stepped out of the car to get that little loaf of bread for the starving woman and her child. That was a beautiful moment. It reminded him of how, when he was a kid and what his mom had to do for him. But then once that scene was over, we get back to cut, camera angle, camera angle, camera angle. I felt like I was watching WWE wrestling where they just keep cutting from different angles all the time and doing constant like zoom in and zooms out just to make the action more energetic to the viewing audience on TV. It just needs to stop. Just stop with the different camera angles. Take your hand off the button and just stop. let's watch this scene, and then we can move on to the next one. And the audio here is not good. It is not good at all. It's very much like the audio system I have with my reviews. I know my audio's not the best. I try my damnedest, damn it. But you have points in the movie where you hear dialogue and the microphone is just blown out. Or it sounds like they're using a different microphone that gives you a little bit more tinny of a sound. And then maybe you have a really nice microphone at one point. The audio quality is not consistent, and it's not good in this movie. I also didn't know if this movie was starting, because at the very beginning they were showing ads. They were kind of like the truth commercials that we have here in the States, where they're talking about how bad smoking is and how it can cause death and cancer and terrible things. And then it quickly morphs into the news report of this author who wrote a book called El Dorado about Rocky and KGF. And I was like, oh, I think are we starting here? This is a commercial? This is starting? Okay, that was random. Is that a mandate in Indian cinema to have the little disclaimers about, smoking is terrible for you or drink responsibly? Because every time you saw a character smoking on screen or drinking on screen, if you look in the corners, it had little tiny warnings of smoking is bad for you. Is that something for Indian cinema? Is that like a mandate? Please, I'm actually very curious. I want to know. KGF Chapter 1 has great action sequences, and Yash, who plays Rocky, our main protagonist, our main badass, he's just that. He's a freaking badass. I would assume it's a dream role to have someone who is, in shape and has a presence about him. It's a dream role to be like, okay, just go on set and then stand there, and we're going to shine the lights on you. We're going to turn the fans on so that your hair is just flowing in the wind, and just look intensely at the camera or look intensely at someone, and then we're going to shoot that. That's really all that he does in this movie. I think he had maybe like 10 minutes of dialogue, and this film is 2.5 hours long. Everything else is just him standing there. I think the only time he talked was when he was talking with Reena, who is played by Sarindi Shetty, who is... she is gorgeous. She is beautiful. That's another thing I'm noticing about Indian cinema. When it comes to the ingenue, I'm really getting behind them all, of the choices that they make. Like, yeah, I would go out and murder everyone just so I can have your affection. I would definitely do that. Now, this is only Chapter 1. This is clearly a Part 1. We have really no resolution here. There are so many more mob bosses that need killing, and for Rocky to take over, I'm not sure where this is going. I have heard that Chapter 2 is definitely not as good as Chapter 1, but we'll definitely check it out next time. But in the meantime, Chapter 1 is a pretty fun, entertaining action Indian cinematic experience. A couple of the technical things are definitely off and definitely need improvement, but for the most part, this was a pretty damn good time. I'm going to give KGF Chapter 1 3 out of 5 Blu-rays.
Not exactly what I had in mind, but not bad.
So guys, if you've seen KGF Chapter 1, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell so you know the next time I'm releasing my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.